Mswati inkosi ithula akayithathe akahambe nayo yotenza bakhe wone
1400 hours. Welcome to ERS Text Talk. Thank you so much for choosing us this afternoon on the program. Today, the topic is withholding taxes, and you'll be sure to enjoy that conversation. You will remember we started that conversation last week. Notsile was occupying this seat. I am the driver this week, so I just need you to fasten your seatbelt, and we are going to enjoy the ride. Outside of that, we take you to Zambia, and we have our business journalist, Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla, who is going to brief us on some of the developments there regarding COMESA, as well as the agreements that have been signed there. She did whisper to me that they have a very important event that they will be heading to in the next 30 minutes. So we will be getting fresh news in about 2 minutes. So stay with us here on ERS Text Talk. At the end of the program, we will have Sandelis Bia, our economist, helping us understand the numbers today in the market. So let's start with Nelsiwe briefly. All right, we promised you this week our focus has been on the COMESA Competition and Consumer Commission launch of the 2025 Consumer Protection Regulations, as well as the launch of the 2026-2030 Strategic Plan. Our business team has been on the ground covering the event, and we now cross over to our business journalist, Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla. She is in Livingstone, Zambia. Nguni, we understand that there were no activities this morning, but what can you share with us about the past 2 days?
Thank you so much, Mguni, and good afternoon to the viewer at home. So in the past 2 days, the COMESA Competition and Consumer Commission has had to unveil or launch the regulations. These regulations are critical because they are important to the region as technology and artificial intelligence continues to be on the rise. There was a need for these regulations. These regulations that have been launched by COMESA are replacing those that were enacted in 2004. So these regulations are meant to ensure that countries in the COMESA region, as they trade, there is that law that prohibits some of the activities that can happen online and disturb their trade. So another thing that happened in the past 2 days is the launch of the 2026-2030 strategy, which will further enhance the work of these regulations. So what the COMESA region is doing is ensuring that as countries trade, the rights of the consumers are not trampled upon, and they want to make sure that as businesses trade amongst themselves, those businesses do not find themselves in a position where they are being, if I may say, abused by larger businesses. So now what they have said is that if a small business, for example, has some complaints about another business, whether that business is small or not, but if they consider that this business is making my work very hard, then they have a right to talk directly with the Competition Commission, for example, in Eswatini, or maybe talk to the Competition Commission here in Zambia at COMESA to register their concern. So what is happening now, we are going to rush to another event where we will be there will be a signing ceremony of a memorandum of understanding with different regional economic commissions, which will further enhance the work of COMESA, which will further enhance the trade between, for example, the East African countries, ECOWAS and West African countries. This is a way that COMESA is trying to ensure that whatever has been decided here is also implemented, or the other regional economic commissions are aware of it, so that it could further enhance trade. So right now we are rushing to that event. We will be back maybe on the 7 p.m. news, where we will be sharing more on this memorandum of understanding.
Nelly, thank you so much for your time. That is our business journalist, Nelsiwe Umalo Ndlangamandla, just letting us in on the regulations launched under the COMESA Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Moving ahead, the business community is calling for a growth-oriented national budget for the 2026-2027 financial year, warning that fiscal pressures costs continue to weigh on economic performance. Now, as the 2025-2026 budget totaled to 32.6 billion malangeni, with a projected deficit of 2.88 billion malangeni, domestic revenue targeted at around 17.7 billion malangeni, as well as SACCO receipts over just over 10 billion malangeni, reflecting a decline. We spoke to different stakeholders, including the private sector, ahead of the budget speech that's happening tomorrow by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Neil Reichenberg, and they expect the budget to address tax policy certainty as well as measures to stimulate private investment. Let's listen.
With government having projected a fiscal deficit of nearly 3 billion malangeni for the current year and a public sector wage bill nearly 10 billion malangeni, different business representatives say the 2026-2027 budget must strike a balance between fiscal consolidation and economic stimulus. President of the Federation of Eswatini Business Community, Benjamin Simelane, calls on government to be considerate of MSMEs.
What we expect is government must put more resources in enabling the economic participation of MSMEs. We would really love to see the minister expanding the collection of taxes, looking at inefficiencies here and there. We wouldn't like to see the taxes going up for individuals, because then it will stifle the economic activities.
Private sector credit growth has been modest, investment levels remain subdued, and unemployment, especially among young people, remains a persistent concern. Business Eswatini CEO Inathi Dlamini says their hope is for a fully funded budget with focus on the tax base rather than increasing rates.
And we are hoping that the minister will not yield to the temptation of now having to borrow everywhere in order to fund the budget shortfall. So we are asking him to stay away from that. Another thing which is important for the private sector is please avoid the temptation of raising taxes. We believe that as business are already being taxed to the hilt, and there's just no more room to be taxed even further. But we are asking the minister very, very strongly not to touch alcohol. We have alcohol companies in this country, invested in this country, hiring a Maswati, paying tax, etc., etc. Please let's not punish them. Seeing that EEC is actually ESCOM in the making, trust me, it will collapse into afterwards. What is the Minister of Finance going to do about it? Because we feel this is the opportunity where government can intervene and play a role, either by issuing guarantees or grants. Some form of blended finance intervention is needed.
At the same time, government faces rising demands for social spending, infrastructure delivery, and service provision with limited fiscal space. Public debt remains elevated, and SACCO revenue still accounts for a significant share of government's income. Recent International Monetary Fund estimates show real GDP expanding by about 2.8% in 2024, followed by a projected growth of nearly 4.6% in 2026, supported by domestic investment and service sector activity. Reporting, Notile Sitole, Smuva Shongwe, Babani.
And that's it from our business news. We'll go for a net break. When we return, we speak all things withholding taxes with our two usual suspects. Stay with us.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Let's talk about withholding taxes now, and to continue educating us on that very same topic, we have Ndobeko Manana, the Director for Communications and Marketing from the Eswatini Revenue Service, as well as Tebolenkosi Mahlalela, the ERS Manager, Taxpayer Education and Information. Thank you for always making time. Very important to learn about this. Let's start with you, Tebolenkosi. Let's talk about the documents. I think it's very important that we learn what documents should ERS clients, submit to accompany the schedule and payment of withheld taxes.
Thank you, Mguni. Afternoon to you as well as to our viewers. It's always a pleasure for us to be with you in this program. Yes, of course, last week we did introduce the subject on withholding tax compliance, where we highlighted that withholding tax is actually a retention tax, which is an obligation to the one paying the income to withhold a certain portion of tax from that amount to be paid and then remit the withheld tax to the Eswatini Revenue Service. So today we want to really go deeper into what exactly are the required documents to support your submission. We expect that when you submit, and also let me highlight the importance of these documents, Mguni. They are more of a verification or a proof of the amount withheld and paid on behalf of the withholding tax payee, and they are to be submitted at the Eswatini Revenue Service head offices at Ezulwini. These supporting documents include the invoice as well as the contract showing the amount charged in terms of the agreements that they have together. We also expect that they will attach a proof of payment to the payee as well as proof of payment to the Eswatini Revenue Service, now showing the amount withheld or the amount remitted to the Eswatini Revenue Service. There's also a component of reduced rates, which if you will be using these rates, we expect that you will accompany the supporting documents with a reduced rate approval letter, which is obtained from the Eswatini Revenue Service. We are available through our legal unit to assist you on how to go about in terms of the requirements so that you can qualify to apply the reduced rates. But once you are accredited to use the reduced rates, we expect that you will also include that approval letter in terms of your supporting documents.
Now, we know you have a platform called TaxEase. Tell us how one is able to file withholding taxes on that very same platform.
Thank you, Sfiso. Good afternoon to you and to our viewers at home. So as you've mentioned, our clients can file for withholding tax on our self-service platform called TaxEase. All they simply do is access the platform, go to the withholding tax workflow, and then select the withholding tax schedule. So this is a document that they populate separately outside of the platform. They will populate all the details of the taxes held, save that document, and then re-upload it onto TaxEase. And then they'll make their submission and obviously make the payment as well. But one thing we want to add about the schedule is to just remind our clients that the way TaxEase works is it wants you to ensure that the format you use in populating your schedule aligns to the format or how your date is outlined within your device, so whether it's a laptop or a computer. So for instance, if on your device your date format is 26/02/2026, make sure that on the schedule that corresponds as well, because if you don't, the system then does reject that schedule. So just taking note of that, ensuring that the date on your schedule aligns with the date that is on your machine, then you shouldn't have a problem.
So there isn't a required date format per se, but it should just align.
Yes, with whatever your device positioning for the date is.
Yeah, I mean, last week you did, touch briefly on what you called withholding tax certificate.
Yes.
Who gets it and from where?
Okay, so we expect that once everything has been done, once the administration has been done, as Nobego has taken us through the process of how you upload the withholding tax schedule on TaxEase, any company or person who's withholding tax is required by law to then issue a withholding tax certificate. This is a proof also of the amount withheld or remitted to the ERS to say, I've withheld tax of so much from the payment that I'm making to you, and I've paid it to the ERS. Once you have done that, you've uploaded the schedule on TaxEase and you have made the payment against the assessment raised on TaxEase, we expect that the system will then generate the withholding tax certificate, which you will then take and issue it to the withholding tax payee as proof of the amount withheld and remitted to the ERS.
Yeah. And what if I cannot get the withholding tax certificates on TaxEase?
So in the past, withholding tax certificates, that process was done manually. Our clients would have a booklet, a withholding tax booklet. They would populate all of the details of the withheld taxes and then come to the ERS at the head office to get a stamp that certified that this is indeed a withholding tax certificate that they could give to the payee.
Right.
However, with the introduction of TaxEase, that withholding tax certificate is now generated onto your profile on our TaxEase platform once you've conducted that entire process. So we still do have that manual option available should there be any issue. However, we're very excited that with the introduction of TaxEase and just moving to being digital and removing paper where we can, that is all now done electronically.
And everything done with ease,
yes,
I suppose.
Exactly.
Can you give us examples of resident withholding taxes and how they are paid?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mnguni. So I'll just be taking you through both resident as well as non-resident withholding tax examples. Let's start with the resident withholding tax. We look at dividends withholding tax. We did highlight last week that it is charged at 10%. So let's take, for instance, that you have bought shares in a company, and then when you now are given the dividends against your shares, we expect that the company that is issuing the dividends will withhold 10% of your dividends and remit that 10% to the Eswatini Revenue Service. Let's make an example that you were supposed to be paid dividends of 8,000 emalangeni. Multiplying that by 10%, we expect that the company will remit 800 emalangeni on your behalf, because you are the one actually that's paying the tax on your behalf, and then give you the difference of 8,000 minus 800 emalangeni. And then another example on resident withholding tax is what we call tax directives. First of all, before you even administer tax directives, we expect that the company that will be withholding tax directives will first apply with the ERS, and you will be taken through the requirements. So here, whenever there's an individual offering service to this company, how it works is that before they are paid, or rather before the company pays the individual who has offered the service, they will withhold a 10% called tax directive and remit that to the ERS, and then pay the individual who has offered the services the difference. Also, I would like now to move on to the non-resident withholding tax. I'll make an example of what we refer to as entertainment and sportmen withholding tax. Let's say, for instance, there's an event in Eswatini or a festival where we'll be hosting artists coming from South Africa, for instance. The event holders or the event organizers, we expect that before they pay the South African artist whatever amount that they've charged them, they would withhold an amount of 15% and pay that to the Eswatini Revenue Service. And over and above that, Mnguni, in all my examples, please note that at the end of it all, we expect that you will then issue a withholding withholding tax certificate as proof of the amount of the amounts withheld. In this instance, let's say, for instance, you're supposed to pay this South African artist 100,000 emalangeni based on the entertainment that they've come to render in Eswatini. 15% of that will be 15,000 emalangeni. So it means they'll be due to be paid 85,000. Sorry, yes, and the 15,000 will be remitted to the Eswatini Revenue Service as form of withholding tax, and a tax certificate will be withheld. There's also one interesting one, Mnguni, referred to as repatriated branch profit. Yeah. So if there's a branch that is operating in the country on behalf of a foreign headquarters, or it has a headquarters outside of the country, that branch remains treated as an extension of that foreign headquarters. So whenever they make profits, before they transfer the profits or they take the profits abroad, we expect that they will remit withholding tax of 15% of the profits made to the Eswatini Revenue Service, and then pay the difference to the headquarters, which is then situated in the foreign country. And also in that situation, Mnguni, a withholding tax certificate will be issued, because everything must be done transparently and in the open, and everyone should see how much has been withheld from how much, and how much ERS has gotten from the transaction, and then the headquarters in the foreign country will then get the difference.
Yeah. So in short, if we're just speaking the numbers, with residents, it's 10%.
Yes.
With non-residents, it's 15%.
It's 15%.
The other details, the nitty-gritties.
Yes. Usually it's like that, but there is what we call DTA, where we have agreements with other countries, where now it comes in the issue of reduced rates.
Okay.
Where I then said our legal team then takes you through, and you can qualify for, as long as that country is under the DTA, so you can apply for a reduced rate. You'll be taken through what requirements, what documents do you need to provide with the ERS, so that you can then qualify and go ahead, apply the reduced rates.
All right, fantastic. And
Yes.
Ndobeko, your final remarks, what is your advice to those that are handling withholding tax in the Kingdom of Eswatini?
Thank you, Sfiso. I think the first one would be to just remind our clients to ensure that they're using the accurate tax rates. Gebo and yourself have already highlighted the differences between rates for residents versus non-residents, so that one is key. And then reporting on time. The deadline for withholding tax submissions of return and payments is the 15th of the following month.
Right.
She also highlighted on the importance of issuing the tax certificate, because that's the receipt that the payee, it's their proof to say the payer indeed withheld the tax, but also remitted it back to the ERS. And then just staying up to date with the rates that we've already highlighted. Through the introduction of our income tax order, there were changes to these tax rates, so making sure that they are up to date with that. And then lastly, and very important for us, tomorrow is our deadline for our VAT return submissions and payments, so reminding our VAT clients to ensure that they submit their VAT schedules and also make payments to avoid any penalties and interests.
Well, thank you so much to the both of you for always coming here and educating us on taxes. That was Ndobeko and Kwebo Lenkosi, the usual suspects. You should know them by now. Let's go for a quick ad break. From taxes to numbers within the markets now with our economist, Sanela Sbia. Stay with us.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Hello to all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Sanele Sbia now joins us virtually and he briefs us on what the numbers within the markets are telling us today. Sanele, we just have 4 minutes, so please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Ngumale. Good afternoon to you and also to the viewers. So starting with the US, we're seeing a rebound in the markets there, being led by the rebound in the tech stocks. So we're waiting for NVIDIA's numbers to come out, but right now the Dow Jones Industrial Average is climbing back up to the 50,000 zone. The Nasdaq Composite Index has gained some 228 points, trying to go back to those record highs, while the Standard & Poor's Index sits nicely at $6,946, just nearing those record highs again. And then in terms of the European markets, the FTSE 100 has gained some 19 points in today's trade, and Frankfurt there is back up on the 25,000 mark, and Paris has broken records to sit at 8625.91 in terms of our overall share volumes, largely driven by spending in terms of those luxury stocks and those luxury commodities. In Japan, the Nikkei is doing relatively well, being buoyed by those economic news and also the fact that, tech stocks are bouncing back. So the Nikkei is back on a record high of 58,000 in today's trade. The Hang Seng is, somehow on a bit slide there, it's sitting at 26,000 in today's trade, losing 384 points, and the Shanghai Composite Index has lost some 0.6 points there, largely driven by the fact that President Trump is back at it with his tariff policies, and we know that the mainland usually gets the main brunt of those, and also the fact that there are some structural imbalances within the mainland and also trickle over to Hong Kong. In South Africa, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange is sitting at a record high of 551 rands in today's trade. Even though it has lost a bit of 190 points, it shows that the markets are reacting relatively well to Minister Kondongwane's budget there. And then in Eswatini, we've not seen any change. In commodities, gold has lost a bit of ground, while Brent crude oil has also lost a bit of ground there, given progress that we are seeing around the Iran-US tensions there. In terms of the currencies, at midday, the Lilangan had lost some 0.3 points, but sitting steadily there on that 1590 mark, and at 1876 against the euro, at 9.82 against the Japanese yen. All strong numbers, Mr. Ngumalo, largely driven and supported by the Minister's Finances budget there, and also the price of gold that remains relatively high. Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. We've come to the end of our program today. Thank you to our viewers as well for staying with us. We hope that you continue to enjoy more programs offered by Eswatini TV. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Mswatu inkosi ithula akayithathe akahambe nayo akayithathe yotenza bakhe wone